Today, we are talking about photo booths. And, I've got a photo hanging on my fridge from a photo booth that showed up at our church one day. It was my wife, myself, and our children, and I look at that photo quite a bit. I've got another print from my 10-10-20 wedding. It's in my car, and it's special to me because it's got several girls that I taught in that photo with me. So photo booths are awesome, and we're going to talk about all the reasons why they are awesome. We're going to talk about the different types of photo booths and just different options that are out there for you and different budgeting things. But guys, if you have not looked into a photo booth, I would suggest you look into one. So let's talk about why they are so freaking awesome. So 5 reasons to have a photo booth, and hopefully by the end of this I'll have convinced you, but if not, that's totally cool as well. Some of you may already have booked a photo booth, but honestly, I think it is a great way to add something special to your wedding. So let's talk about why. So first of all, what is a photo booth? If you've never heard of a photo booth, I'd be extremely surprised. If you've never been in a photo booth, I'd be extremely surprised as well. So honestly, I don't know when photo booths started, but I remember from my childhood because I'm super old. So like back in the day when people went to malls, there would be these boxes, these big boxes randomly in the mall, and there'd be like this curtain, and you'd go inside with like a few friends and you'd take a few photos, you'd act really stupid, and then this strip would get printed out for you guys to take home. That's in general what a photo booth was and what a photo booth still kind of is. Now, they have evolved a little bit, so they're not all exactly like that, but that's kind of the concept. And so not all of them these days provide prints. They should, but they don't. Some do gifts, or they may email the pictures to you. We're going to talk about all the different things. Most of them are going to have props, but you kind of get the idea of what it is. So it's a place where people get together, they take a photo, they act silly, and then it's either sent to them or emailed or printed or something of that nature. That is what a photo booth is. Now, there are a lot of different ones. I've seen some really different ones, and the one we have is different than a lot of other people's. And, if you do consider getting one of these for your wedding, you're going to need to look at a few things to make sure it fits for what you're going for. So some of these are really big and some of them are really small. So that's going to be one of the first things you think about if you do decide to go with a photo booth is, which version do I need? Do I have enough space for something that's like, one of them was like 10, I don't know if it was 10 feet tall, like 8 feet tall. And it was probably 6 foot by 6 foot, something like that. So, thinking about how much space you need, and there are different styles of them. The one I was just talking about is an enclosed style. So the most common ones back in the day, like I said, they're boxes of some sort. That may be a tent that you get into. There's this one crazy one I've seen a few times where it's a big white inflatable, kind of like, it looks like a bouncy house. It's like a bouncy house type thing, but it's got lights built into it that light up. I have no idea what it's called, but there are things like that. But you have the enclosed style, and the problem with the enclosed style is you can't fit. You can only fit a certain amount of people in there. So look again at how many people can fit into it. That's important. And then you have these open style ones. There are no walls. You just have like a backdrop, or it could just be a regular wall. And then you have whatever the device is that is going to be taking the picture. For us, it's basically a box on a stand with a flash on it, and then like a screen that you interact with. That's what ours looks like. And then we have a printer connected to it. So much more open. So you can fit, we've probably fit like 15 people in there into one photo before. So people can see what's happening. So it's just not as big and obtrusive, I guess. Anyway, and like we already talked about, so some of them will actually have a printer and print out things right then and there for your couples or for your guests. And then some of them will just provide files, whether they're emailed to you right then or later. Now, I've seen some other really cool things, and I'll have to look and see what my software can do, because I've never messed around with it, anything besides the basic stuff. So some of them will do like slow-mo videos. So I've seen like people tossing crap up in the air and just going in slow-mo, or they're like slapping each other, whatever. It's just kind of something fun and goofy for people to do. There's like the boomerang one. So like you can create your own boomerang. We already talked about emailing them. There's some where you can just make like a video, and I've seen some where you can actually like write on the picture afterwards. So like you can leave a message to the couple with your photo. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there. That's the point I'm trying to make with this is, there are a lot of options, a lot of different things. So it's, if you think of just the traditional photo booth and you're like, that's boring and stupid, I don't want to do that. Maybe there's something else out there that you might actually enjoy. So let's jump into the reasons. So I promised you 5 reasons why you should get a photo booth. So, number 1, you want your guests to be entertained. You want your guests to have fun. No one wants people to show up to their wedding and be bored and then talk about their wedding and how boring it was and how they had nothing to do. So this is an easy way to keep people entertained. I mean, most photo booths that I see at weddings are like constantly full, and there might be even like a line for people to get into it. So one situation where this is definitely helpful, there's that time period after the ceremony where the reception has already started, but the bride and the groom or the couple is off somewhere, and people are sitting around with nothing to do. So the most common thing people do is, like a cocktail hour. But if you don't drink, then the cocktail hour is pretty boring. If you're a little kid, you probably shouldn't be drinking. So what are they going to be doing? So the photo booth is another way to keep people entertained during that cocktail hour, so they can go and do that instead of just sitting around being bored. What about later in the reception? Not everyone is a dancer. Not everyone's going to be out on the dance floor. So what do they do the rest of the night? Do they just sit in a chair and watch? Maybe. Or they could get up and go to the photo booth. What about all those little kids running around and causing havoc? Let them play in the photo booth. Okay. And, one of the other things I've seen for sure is, some people don't like photos because they think they have to pose and look good in a certain way. But when you add props, people loosen up and they will act stupid and they don't care what they look like. And it's just a good time. So definitely this is a good way to keep your guests entertained. Number 2, it's a memento from the wedding. So again, we don't want people going to our wedding and then leaving and forgetting all about it and not, just not even remembering what it was. So this can be a way for people to take something home and remember your big day. So it could, most of them do prints. And like I said, I would suggest you do one with prints. And on the print, most of the time there's the date and then the name of the couple. And it's, I've been in people's houses and I'll see on their fridge random photo booth prints. Like I said, I keep one in my car. I keep one on my fridge from experiences I've had. And every time I see it, it reminds me of those people in that event. And the other thing you have to think about is all these guests might not make it into your other photos. I mean, photographers are going to try and capture as many people as possible. But that doesn't mean we're going to get every single person. It just doesn't always happen, especially if they're not dancing or doing something noticeable. But they have the option of walking into the photo booth, and then you make sure that you've captured the majority of the people at your wedding. I can't remember when it was. It might have been in June. Anyway, we did this one photo booth, and they did it actually before the ceremony. So guests were coming in and they were asked to do the photo booth right before they actually went into the ceremony. So that way you got photos of every single person that was at the wedding. I thought that was really cool. Now, the other thing's cool from this, it can also, like I said, you send a copy home for them to remember, but it also can be a memento for the couple. It's pretty easy to print off an extra print and then collect those for the couple and put them into like a book. I see that happen a lot. If you wanted to, you could always take the digital files and turn it into a printed book later if you wanted. That's possible. You can post these online as well or email them to guests. So again, they're having something, and it's some way to remember you guys and the experience they had at your wedding. So this is kind of similar. It's pretty expected for you to have wedding favors for your guests, something to take home. And the photo booth can kind of replace that. Some people choose to do both, and that's perfectly fine. Or you can choose just to make the photo booth like their gift. So like you're gifting them a print or a few prints or whatever to take home. And, it may be more. So, I've seen some pretty cool wedding favors, and I've seen some that are pretty lame. But most people are going to be happy having photos of them laughing and being with their friends and family and having a good time. So, some people might be like, oh, that print's not much. But that print might mean a lot to a lot of people. I know how much the photo booth photos I have mean to me. That print means a lot. A lot more than some of the other things you could hand out to people as a wedding favor. And the good news for the couple is this is a lot less work. Figuring out what you want to do for wedding favors and then getting them all together and maybe creating them or whatever, that's a lot of work and a lot of money. So a photo booth may be a cheaper and easier option for you. Reason number 3. This is perfect for all ages and pretty much all types of people. I can't think of a situation where, someone was just like, I can't do it. I hate this. It's, I've seen all types of people and all ages get into it. I've seen people holding their babies in these photos. I've seen young kids. I've seen grandparents. I've seen grandparents kissing and doing putting props on, and it's fun for everybody. It really is. There's just something about a photo booth that attracts people, and it's like I said, it's a great way to get everybody involved, everybody entertained at your wedding. And the only thing I will mention, just for safety reasons, depending on the style of the photo booth you go with. So some of them, most photo booths are going to have someone there running it and manning it, right? Making sure it's working and everything. There are some photo booths that people sell that's basically it runs by itself option. And so the only thing I would like to mention is if it is one of those ones where there's no one there watching it, make sure the kids are supervised. Most of this equipment is extremely expensive, and you don't want a kid printing off 50 photos because no one's there watching. So that's my only little note about that, as far as the age goes. Make sure the kids aren't just going nuts and destroying stuff. This is also kind of a cool blend of modern and classic. So, everyone has their cell phones these days. Everyone taking 100 photos of themselves, the photos of every situation possible. So, people love photos, and they love having instant access to these photos. But, most people don't actually print off anything from their photos. Very few. Think back on all the photos on your phone. How many of those have you actually printed? Probably not many. I know I haven't. I don't know if I've ever printed anything off of my phone, to be honest with you. So that's kind of the cool thing about the photo booth. It gives people that instant gratification of, oh, I can see myself in the photo. We're doing this. It's fun. It's goofy. But then they get that classic print that they're so not used to. And there's just something cool about handing a print to somebody, because most people these days are not familiar with it. It's something like brand new to them. They're like, oh, what is this? What is this thing? Oh, this is weird. I've never seen one of these before. And so some of the other cool things is, these people used to doing selfies is they can see themselves, they can redo the photos if they need to. And again, they get to print it, take it home right then and there for their instant gratification. I really think that everyone can have one of these. they're not super duper expensive. I mean, excuse me. I mean, I have it on there as a range from $500 to $800, but I bet you can find some even cheaper than that, maybe $250, $300. I just honestly haven't looked into it, so I don't know the real numbers. So, I mean, $250 is pretty cheap way to entertain 150 people, and to give them something. You know, even $500 is a pretty cheap thing. So, I mean, if you have 100 guests and you're paying $500, that's $5 a person to keep them entertained and to give them something. And most likely you'd be getting a copy of the print as well. So that's a pretty cheap investment for 100 people. Now, if you don't want to spend money, which, you know, a lot of us have budgets and we don't want to spend money when we don't have to, there is a way to do it yourself. Now, it's not going to be the same thing or as great, but it is still something you can do. So if you're going to do it yourself, here's kind of what I would suggest. So first of all, you know, come up with some kind of backdrop. And, here's the simplest way to do this. If you don't want to actually like create a photo booth, you can create a place where people can take selfies. So create some kind of backdrop and then put some kind of lighting up so it'll look nice. And then people can basically walk to that space, walk to the backdrop, take their own photos. And so that they're still having something to remember the day by. They're still able to post something. And it's still kind of a fun experience. So you could still put props and stuff out there. But that eliminates most of the cost because you're not having to have cameras and other things like that. I mean, and it could be really cheap. Like you can get these lights from Walmart or Lowe's, like these little shop lights, and just like put up one of those and have that aimed at the backdrop, and it'll probably look better than most people's normal cell phone photos. So you'd be spending maybe like $30, maybe $100, depending on how cool your backdrop is. Now, if you want to go more advanced, you can put a cell phone or some kind of camera on a tripod and do it that way. I mean, the quality is probably going to be a lot better, but then again, you have to have that equipment, and you have to have someone probably there running it. Now, another option, also relatively cheap, Max I think they still have it. Max have this software called Photo Booth built into it. So basically, it takes the webcam and it will run like a photo booth thing for you. You know, again, not super easy to do, because I mean, you'd have to be like, how am I going to put my computer in a place where it's aimed at people? And so, I mean, not the easiest, but the point is there are cheap or free options out there if you really want to. And again, in my opinion, I would suggest, if this does sound like something awesome, go ahead, save the money and spend it on a real one versus having to come up with all this other ways of doing it. It just isn't worth your time, in my opinion. But, you know, like I said, do what you want. That is completely up to you. All right. That was quick. I went through that pretty quick. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Let me see if I can come back to my face. I got someone said a thumbs up. All right. Does anyone have any? Let me see if there's any comments or questions about any of this stuff. I don't see any. But honestly, guys, photo booths are a lot of fun. Photo booths are a great way to keep people entertained, a great way to get photos of a lot of people that normally you wouldn't get great photos of. It makes your wedding memorable, gives them something to take home. It is a great option. And like I said, it's not horribly expensive. So that's kind of the cool thing about it as well. So hopefully this has been helpful. You know, I do offer photo booths, but it's not something that it's not something I try and do a ton of. There are companies out there that's all they do. They're just photo booth companies. So, you know, if you have questions about this, if you want to see examples, whatever, you know, comment, whatever, let me know, and I can try and create something for you or show you or help you out in any way. But as always, guys, I'm here to help you. If you have something you'd like me to talk about in the future, if there's something you're struggling with, then please reach out and I will help you to the best of my degree.